Hey guys, hope you all have been well. Welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be an update video. I'm going to be updating you on my foundation routine. I feel like it's important to always update a routine that you do because when people are trying to reference how you do your makeup, you want to make sure it's current, if that makes sense. All right, so we're gonna get started. I don't know how long this process is gonna be and I don't wanna be here too long. The first thing I start off with is obviously primer. This is the Milk Hydro Grip Primer. I'm showing this one to you because it's my current favorite, but I go between this kind of a tacky primer. I have the Putty Primer from e.l.f. and I also have the Becca Ever Matte Poreless Primer as well as the All Nighter Primer from Urban Decay, and those are kind of pore filling and mattifying. So depending on my mood, I go between those four, but this happens to be my favorite, so I'm going to show it to you. Let's take a pump of that, and I put it on the center of my face first and then I blend it outwards. I get a lot of oiliness and most of my pores on the center of my face, so that's why I usually start off there to make sure that most of the product kind of gets there and the remainder spreads out. And this gets tacky pretty quickly. Can you hear that? Tackiness. So now we can go ahead and move on to the next step, which is foundation. This is the Colourpop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Hydrating Foundation. I have this shade in 80W. Now this foundation I'm choosing because I feel like it's, for me, the best looking on my skin. It applies well on my skin, it looks great on my skin, but I also have the Estee Lauder Double Wear and I use the shade Tawny in that one, and that's for my full coverage, need to stay in place, probably don't have time to touch up. That's what I use. I also have the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Matte Foundation and I use the shade 240 in that one, and that I think wears better than this, but since we're filming and I want it to come off like well on camera and not so much about me going out and making sure my foundation stays in place, I'm gonna go with this one. And in addition to this, I do, let's say if I do my foundation 7 days in the week, 5 to 6 times I would add an illuminator. I currently have the MAC Strobe Cream as well, but this has been the one that I've gone to for years. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Wonder Glow, and I just kind of make a concoction on the back of my hand. The Colourpop pump dispenses a lot on one pump. So for me, this is enough foundation, and this is about half to 2/3 of a pump. If I go a full pump, I end up wasting product. So take that, and then I'm just gonna show you how much I put on, that amount. Because a lot of my foundations cater to the fact that I have oily skin, having an illuminator helps with that brightening, that glowy look, but I still maintain the, you know, kind of needed benefits of having a mattifying or a lot less dewy of a foundation. Now this is, I would say, medium coverage foundation. You can still see, like, you can still see my pimples, my the moles on my face, some of my H spots, it's all there. And I don't even spot conceal for the most part. If it's like a bigger event, you know, if I'm going to a wedding or whatever, then I will. But for camera's sake, for just doing YouTube, for going out, I really could care less about my spots. And that just comes, like, for me, it just came over time where it is what it is. You know, I want to try and even my skin out as much as possible, but I don't have to be ashamed of how it normally looks. So a lot of, you can still see, I hope you'll be able to see, a lot of my skin still peeks through. And I pretty much covered my face. I still have this much foundation. I'm just letting you know, it's a lot. It's a lot on one pump. So be careful with it. I know that, people advise not to put foundation underneath or on your eyelids, but I just do it. It doesn't really do anything bad for my makeup, not that I've noticed, and it's not like I'm putting a lot of it on those places. Again, like, you can see the coverage it has on my face, you can see my mole clear as day. Because my foundation is lighter than I would normally do it, I mean, we're comparing max full coverage foundation to what I'm doing now. It's a big difference. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that these places where I have a lot of these dark spots are covered enough. I don't usually put them on the sides of my mouth, but when I remember to, I do, because I do have darkness in those areas. Now I'm gonna let that stay for a little bit. And this is something that I've known for a while, but I've never done, and that's to let it thicken up a little bit. And so the kind of the coverage kind of stays intact a little bit more. It's not that you're building more coverage, but it dries down a little bit more. So product stays in one place a lot more than just like spreading it out on a big area, if that makes sense. And putting the concealers in these spots, I learned from Robert Welsh. He is easily become one of my favorite channels to watch as of 2020. I watched every single one of his videos. He's so informative, and the way he talks is so calming, but he also sounds like expensive, you know? Robert, that's how you sound. If you ever see this video, you sound expensive. Just calmingly expensive. Forgot to do my nose. I'm gonna do that because I always apply on my nose. This concealer that I'm using is the e.l.f. Camo Hydrating Concealer, and I use it in the shade Light Beige. Just really just a tiny bit on my nose. The thought of it lifting on my nose freaks me out, so I try to avoid it. This is the Morphe E20. This is the concealer brush I've been using for a little while now. I have a couple of different brushes from Morphe that I use for concealer. Just kind of depends what's in this container. I don't have a favorite concealer brush. And before I apply powder, I need to make sure that all of this is blended out. The last thing you want to do is set a kind of gathered up area of concealer. It looks horrible. I'm going to take the Morphe E2 and the MAC MSF in medium golden. I also have the Rimmel Stay Matte powder. Those are the only two powders I own. And I think that's pretty much all I need. I have my eye on like the next powder, because eventually I'm gonna run out of this. My dome is already getting pretty flat, so I'm gonna hit the pan of this pretty soon. And my Rimmel's got a very big dent in it. So most of my videos I use this because I don't need to be matte. But again, if it's for occasions where I'm gonna be out for a few hours, I will always use the Rimmel one. So here we have my skin. This is the foundation, all done and ready to go, ready for color, ready for brows, ready for eyeshadow. And so I'm just gonna throw on some bronzer and a highlighter. I'm not even gonna do blush, just so that it kind of has a little more dimension. This brush I use for my bronzer is 135, and this is the Laguna bronzer from NARS. And just, you know, where you would normally bronze contour, you know, kind of that area. With bronzer, you can kind of go a little bit more freely because this is not for sculpting, kind of more of a sun-kissed thing, bringing color back to the skin as opposed to snatched. If there's any place that I need to bronze, it's the top of my forehead, because this area is naturally way darker than the rest of my face. Sometimes I still find myself going overboard when I do this, but it's not as like, you know, as I used to do it. It was pretty bad. So just down the sides of my nose, and I always blend it into the hollows right here. Kind of gives the illusion of more defined bridge. My nose is pretty pointed, but right up here the bridge isn't that pronounced. By doing this, I kind of feel like it kind of brings it forth a little bit more. Underneath, along the sides, and then right across the center. And if I go too dark, I always go back to my my powder brush, and I just brush over it a little bit, kind of tame it down. And so now I'm just going to put on some highlighter, and we're going to call it a day. My highlighter brush, the only one I use really, is the MAC 165. These brushes are not new. So if you're wondering, man, you have a lot of MAC brushes, this is almost a decade's worth of collecting MAC brushes, and I have only gotten rid of one MAC brush. Out of all the ones I've ever purchased, I've gotten rid of one because it was bad. I've given other ones away because I don't use them, but purely on the fact that it was no longer performing. One brush, one. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Superstar Glow Highlighter. I haven't memorized the name of this highlighter because it's so long. It wasn't necessary, Charlotte. I love you, but not necessary. And then hit, 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 hit. And that's where I put my highlighter. Here, 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 here. I always skip that line that I put there because it makes no sense to cover it if I'm trying to create shadow. And then here, here, because Robert Welsh says so, and I think it's such a pretty spot to put it on as opposed to where I used to put it just all across my forehead. So a little bit more specific. And then if I'm feeling spicy, Cupid's bow and under the chin. Not under the chin, under the lip. And that, my friends, is how I do my foundation routine. Very simple. I really don't like doing my foundation. I've said this before. I don't enjoy the process of putting on foundation. I think I mentioned it in like my order or ranking of makeup steps. I hate foundation. If I could just snap my fingers and put it on, I would. So the quicker I can get it done, the better. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me in this video. I really do hope that you enjoyed being here with me and hopefully learned a few things with my foundation routine. If you guys are interested in any of the products that I use in this video, I will be listing them, all of them, down below in the description box for you. Obviously, this is not going to go on Instagram, but if you're interested in any of my makeup looks, always check me out on Instagram. It's the first link in the description box down below where I post a photo of all my makeup looks along with all the products in the caption. Till the next video, I hope you all are doing well, taking great care of yourselves. I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.